first computer on the way here that I can't reach it. It's like military grade test. It's so low. This is like my in-between computer wasn't flying around the house because like, the one wasn't works. Oh well.
There was apps.
What? Very nice, I'm guessing. Okay.
Wait, so Megan, you're gonna do all three.
Should I stand here? There. What? So are we doing 5 minute stages or 7? 7. See it just spit out my So I go slow? Slow enough so they can understand you, yes.
Slow and steady wins the race.
You don't need to spread. I won't spread. I don't spread. You don't spread anymore. I don't. Yeah. So do you want me to go really slow? Okay. So just answer POIs. Okay. Guys. Okay. So I'll answer POIs whenever you guys have it. Okay. Are you timing yourself? Oh, and how do you name the standard? Like, is it called? What is it called? Criterion. No, I know, but like, what's the specific word for the? Like the criterion for this debate. I'll just do societal welfare. Oh, you need which one to do? Do that. You can do that. Societal welfare means what it sounds like it means, right? Yeah, whichever benefits society more. The benefits to unicorns. Okay, so as a brief off-time roadmap, I'm first going to start out with framework and then move on to 3 reasons why we should affirm today's topic. So time begins now. We affirm today's resolution. Ben Carson's comments on Muslims disqualify him as a good Republican candidate. So first, moving with the framework, Ben Carson is currently wants to be a candidate for the Republican nomination for the 2016 presidential election. His comments on Muslims were, quote unquote, "I would not advocate we put a Muslim in charge of this nation as Islam is inconsistent with the values and principles of America." And the standard for today is going to be societal welfare. So basically, whoever says that Ben Carson becoming the Republican candidate and essentially in the future, looking long-term, becomes the actual American president is going to be good or bad for society. As affirming, we're saying that it's going to be bad for society. Negating, they'll say it'll be good for society. Any questions? Okay, so moving on. His quote, "Islam is inconsistent with the values and principles of America," leads me into our first contention, which is Carson's comments are, in fact, at odds with the very design of America and the Constitution. So let's take a brief journey throughout the history of America to show exactly how Carson's exact comments have fundamentally contrasted America's core values. So beginning with 1821, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Virginia's Religious Freedom Law stating, and I quote, "Jew, Gentile, Christian, or Muslim, every single individual of every denomination is going to be able to freely practice their religion in America." So essentially, when we see that Dr. Carson says Islam is inconsistent with the values, he's putting down Islam, and he's saying, and we see that this is going to project in the future that he's not really going to be very tolerant of Islam. But furthermore, Dr. Akil Reed Omar, a constitutional expert at Yale University, puts it best when he states, "One of the most striking features of the Constitution and of America is that it goes out of its way to insist that the federal government is open to all persons of faith, no matter what their religion." And Ben Carson here, with his comment, is fundamentally contesting this value. Moving on with Article 6 of our Constitution, which states that no religious test or qualifications can be given to an individual to any office or public trust in the United States. Then we see in 1961, the United States Supreme Court struck down any religion standard for public office. They state, "We repeat again and again and reaffirm the fact that you cannot force a person to profess a belief." And this decision was unanimous, and we see that they have upheld the First Amendment right that all persons can freely practice their religion. So essentially, what we see here is that true religious freedom, it means that it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're black skinned, or you're brown, or you're white. If you are an American and you uphold the Constitution and that you are fit to lead, then you can lead irrespective of your religion. So the impact of this is that when we have someone like Dr. Carson, who's even running for the Republican candidacy and has a future to become America's president, we see that he's going to bar the presidency simply because of someone's religion. And millions of Americans are going to be denied the right to exercise their fundamental First Amendment rights as well as to hold a position in government, so not because of their ability, not because of who they are, but rather simply because of their religion. So unlike what Dr. Carson claims with Islam being inconsistent with the values and principles of America, he in fact, through his statements, his racist statements and against Islamic people is in fact contrary to the American values and of the Constitution, and we see that we simply cannot have a president like this. So moving on to are there questions? No, okay. So moving on to our second question, which is that
Could you, point of information, could you repeat Dr. Carson's exact words on his statement on Islam?
yes, I can. I would not advocate we put a Muslim in charge of our nation because Islam is inconsistent with the values and principles of America. Does that answer your question? Okay, so moving on to our second contention, which is that of foreign policy. What we see here is that in the status quo, there's 47 world countries with at least 50% of Muslim population, and 27 world countries are officially Muslim. So we see that entirely in the status quo, our foreign policy in the Middle East is incredibly delicate. Right now we have the Iran nuclear negotiations, we have our war on terror, and our alliances in that region are absolutely key because we simply do not have many in the Middle East. So we have to really fight to preserve what we have. And really these alliances are key, for example, because are key in our airstrikes against terrorists because they rely with agreements with countries such as Turkey. So what happens is that when we have a president who is anti-Islamic such as Ben Carson, we're undermining our entire foreign policy. We can't simply have a president who will directly insult and undermine the religions of the states that are so important to our foreign policy. And in foreign policy, the way that we act and interact is key. Diplomats are people who can deal with others in a sensitive and effective way, and just through his comments, Dr. Carson has shown that he is not going to be a good presidential candidate, he is not going to be a good future president, in fact, he wouldn't be a good future diplomat. Okay, so moving on, and the impact of this is that if he becomes our president, what kind of message does this send to our international community? America has always presented itself as the protector of freedom and of equality, but when we have a president who says that Islamic people aren't unequal in America, really that just undermines our entire stance and our position as a global and international power. So moving on to my third contention, which is that of society. Essentially what we see is that if Dr. Carson is the Republican candidate and if he is elected to be president, it's going to cause a lot of societal chaos. Already, just through his one sentence about Islamic people, we see that hundreds of thousands of Islamic people are gathering to advocate for him to withdraw from the race. In fact, Nihad Awad, executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, says the group is calling for Carson to withdraw because of his bigotry and his deeply offensive words. So in this age, we should be confronting all forms of prejudice and bigotry. But what Dr. Carson is doing is that he's subscribing to the stereotypes and he's perpetuating the stereotypes of radical Islamics. And he's also advocating, essentially, through his comments of the treatment of Muslims as second-class citizens. So in conclusion, I strongly urge an affirmative ballot. Thank you.
Off-time rundown, I'd like to go over the affirmative team's case first, and then like to go over my own case. Okay,
Wait, so you're gonna do off
Your
case,
case. Your case first.
off case, and then off case.
Yes.
Wait, I just
Everyone.
really.
Okay, I'll wait.
I'm really sorry, but this is incredibly important to me and to the welfare of this city. I'm ready.
So I'm hungry. No food.
Me too.
No food?
Wait, what was it? Beads.
Are you gonna take POIs? If so, how many?
Yeah, okay, I'll take POIs, but like not like
Mei-Mei, if you're
too
hungry,
many. Like I need to finish my speech, so
Okay, I understand.
Go.
3 is okay.
okay, let's go with that. Let's go 3 is
Let's go
best.
with 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, time starts now. We strongly negate today's resolution that Ben Carson's comments on Muslims disqualify him as a good Republican candidate. We'd first like to say that we agree with the criterion on societal welfare, and also we'd like to define what a good Republican candidate means. We define a good Republican candidate as a person from the Republican Party who seeks to serve their country with diligence and honor and to improve their country as well with their time in office. Okay, the affirmative team's first contention was that Dr. Carson's comment is at odds with America's core values of religious freedom and freedom to practice any religion. However, technically, Dr. Carson never said he was going to ban Islam or not prohibit Islamic people from practicing the religion. He just simply stated, I would not advocate we put a Muslim in charge of our nation inconsistent with the American policies. Yes?
Wouldn't you agree that Dr. Carson's current comments against Muslims are reflective of his future actions and his policies that he is going to undertake?
Yes, to some extent, however. Their second contention was, is that he might bar the presidency or cause to Islamic people. However, he simply stated he would not advocate that they become president. He never said he was going to bar the president. Yeah.
Is this in reputation for our second contention?
I think it was your third.
It's second.
Second. He never said he was going to bar the presidency. He simply said he would not advocate, which means he wasn't going to push for it. However, he cannot first, and secondly, he does not even have the power to bar the presidency. And the negation team's third contention, the affirmative team's third contention was that foreign policy would be deeply affected because of some of our key countries we are in alliance with or are trying to be are Islamic, and his presidency wouldn't reflect well to these countries. However, as a president, I don't think he would probably say these comments to their face, and also that, yes.
Didn't he already say on national TV to the face of hundreds of millions of Americans as well as the international community?
The key word is to the American people because this is for the American race, elections race, not for any international sense. And however, we're arguing over societal welfare, and they claim it's going to cause a lot of chaos. However, yes, we understand that this statement could be seen as offending to Islamic people. But what Dr. Christie said, he never said he wasn't going to put. He never said there shouldn't be a Muslim person in charge of our nation. He simply said he would not advocate for that, and we believe those are two different definitions. And moving on, I'm sorry, not at this time, please. Moving on to our own case, we would first say that with Dr. Carson in becoming the Republican candidate and eventually president, one, he would be a strong representation for equality in terms of racial background. Because Dr. Carson is an African American, he came from a poor background, and he knows what it's like to be one of those people who are not taken care of or underappreciated, and he is determined to fight for the equality of these people, and he also shows determination and hard work as he came from a poor background and rose in the ranks of Johns Hopkins University. And we also would like to, our second contention would be that if Dr. Carson has promised to overturn Common Core in America, yes, this is my second contention. Our second contention is that if Dr. Carson were to become Republican candidate and then eventually president, not at this time, please.
It's actually just a clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, how does Common Core have anything to do with Dr. Carson's remarks on Muslims not being good candidates for president?
Okay, if you would let me finish, I would solely explain that to you.
Like,
Okay, so the criteria is societal welfare, and what we are examining now is what would happen if Dr. Carson would become president and how this would affect society. And so our second contention is that if Dr. Carson became president, he would overturn Common Core. And according to the Washington Post, the Common Core is the problem with Common Core is that it seems that kids already know what they're supposed to know based on other Common Core subjects. And also, Common Core standards are only set up for standardized tests. Basically, what happened when Common Core came into effect is that kids were not doing as well as they should be on standardized tests. Therefore, they developed this rigorous program to make sure their grades looked high on standardized tests. However, they ended up neglecting key areas of education such as innovation, creativity, and such. And also, according to CNN, only 31% of students passed any test. And would Dr. Carson become candidate, eventually president, and eliminating Common Core, he would be serving our nation and helping societal welfare because he will be helping students revert back to an old program which promoted innovation, creativity, and focused not just on tests but other key areas of education as well. Also, in terms of societal welfare, if Dr. Carson were to be president, he also stated that he would keep Guantanamo Bay open. This is a very key issue, as according to the NOA Times.
Is this your third contention?
This is our third contention.
Is that Guantanamo Bay?
Yes, Guantanamo Bay. Dr. Carson would keep Guantanamo Bay open. First of all, America only has one supermax facility to house inmates such as the ones that are housed in Guantanamo Bay. And if we were to close down Guantanamo Bay, we would be faced with the prospect of housing these people somewhere else. And these inmates would eventually have to move to the mainland. And this means they would have to be crammed into this one supermax facility. And this is our French prisoners' rights because this would be a very, very overcrowded facility. And by keeping Guantanamo Bay open, we are keeping dangerous people who should be in supermax prisons off the American mainland, and we are protecting citizens as well as prisoners' privacy. And this affects societal welfare because citizens will be more safe and secure knowing that dangerous people, such as the people in Guantanamo Bay, are off mainland America. And for all these reasons, we strongly negate today's resolution that Ben Carson's comments on Muslims disqualify him as a good Republican candidate.
Okay.
Yeah. Take all this stuff.
Yeah, how long is that? Just a sec.
They were in order.
What even is this order?
Yeah, if you can't read my handwriting.
Okay, yeah, it's alright. Everybody ready?
Just could you give me like a minute?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay, you guys ready now? Okay. As a brief off-time roadmap for this debate, I'll first be going over the affirmative case, then moving on to refute negation team's contentions. Sorry, just a second. Okay, my time begins now. As a member of the affirmative team, I strongly affirm today's resolution that Ben Carson's comments on Muslims disqualify him as a good Republican candidate. Now, moving on to address our first contention, which is that Carson himself is at odds with the American values and our Constitution because of what he has said about Muslims. In response to what? Oh, okay. In response to this, the negation team said that basically he never said that he would ban Islam. While that is true, it's not totally relevant in today's debate, because what we're talking about is his eligibility to be a good Republican candidate. And it's clear, as my partner has stated, that his statements reflect his future actions as president, and even more so, that his statements are undermining America's values as well as our Constitution. Again, like my partner said, Article 6 of our Constitution that says that there shall be no test or qualification of faith for the President of the United States. What Ben Carson has said is directly at odds with our Constitution. He says that a Muslim should not be the president. Yeah?
Of information. Could you please explain Article 6?
Yes, Article 6 of the Constitution, like I said, states that no, there should be no test or qualification of faith for President of the United States. That means that the president can be of any faith, and it doesn't matter. And nobody can say she shouldn't be president because of their faith. All right. So clearly, they haven't really refuted this contention, and it stands. Our second contention was about our foreign policy and how it's incredibly delicate and important that our president is not insulting Muslims. In response to this, all the nation team said was that he wouldn't say it directly to their face. While this may be true, that he's not going to stand up to the leader of Iran and say Muslims shouldn't, The point is that Ben Carson has said this on national TV, which can be seen by anyone, anywhere. And there have already been Muslims in America and in other places calling for Ben Carson to be removed from his presidential campaign. It doesn't matter whether or not he's saying it to their face. Either way, he's saying it to their face because this is America we're talking about, and we're being broadcast everywhere as a major global player. Okay, moving on to our third contention, which is that of societal welfare in relation to Ben Carson's comments. Again, basically, the response is just that he never said that he would ban Islam or anything. The negation team actually, and I quote, said that he never said there shouldn't be a Muslim president. That is exactly what he said. Ben Carson said that he does not advocate a Muslim president, that there should not be a Muslim president. And like my partner has already gone over, this is incredibly bad for the societal welfare of America. Because we already have seen the chaos that's happening because of his comments. We already have seen that he's advocating stereotypes that are harmful to the Muslim community. We've already seen that he is advocating to call Muslims second-class citizens because they should not be allowed to run for presidency. Now moving on to address the negation team's case. Their first contention is that as a black man and supposedly a poor man, that Ben Carson would represent equality in racial background. Now, here's the thing. His face, his skin, who his racial background is, might say that. He is black, it's true. And he may be an icon for equality, but what he has said directly contradicts that idea. He has said that a person of Muslim faith should not be president. And like my partner said, we should be judging candidates not on their religion or the color of their skin, but on their ideas and what they stand for. And it's clear that what Ben Carson stands for, it goes against the Constitution, it goes against American values, and should not be allowed in this presidential campaign. Now, the second contention was about overturning Common Core and how that's good for social welfare and for education. First of all, that's completely irrelevant in today's debate. We're talking about his comments about Muslims, not about his ideas about Common Core. But the reality is that most of the Republican presidents have also said that they would overturn Common Core. In fact, I believe all of them have. None of the Republicans like Common Core. And so it's a non-unique argument. It doesn't make Ben Carson more eligible or less eligible to be a good, quote-unquote, good Republican candidate. Their third contention was about how Ben Carson had said that he would keep Guantanamo Bay open if he were elected president. And then they also talked about how this is societal welfare because it's preventing prisoners from being on the mainland, I guess. But literally almost every human rights organization in the world has advocated for closing Guantanamo Bay. Because the negation team right now is advocating for the continued torture of detainees at Gitmo. They are advocating for incredibly horrible human rights violations. The United States has already admitted through the CIA that there has been torture and illegal and actions that violate international law at Guantanamo Bay, and that it should clearly be closed. And yet the reason that Ben Carson is a good Republican candidate is because he thinks that we should continue doing that. It simply seems like a ridiculous argument, and is clearly not a reason that he would be a good Republican candidate. In fact, it's a reason he would be a bad Republican candidate. So for these reasons, I strongly affirm today's resolution and urge an affirmative vote.
Okay, ready? Everyone ready? Okay. When Ben Carson was a child, he grew up with an illiterate mother, but he didn't know that because she scribbled on a piece of paper. So Ben Carson and his siblings would be determined to learn to read, and he did. Ben Carson will pass these values on to the next generation. I'd first like to define the word advocate. Advocate means to fight for something. Ben Carson said he will not advocate for the election and placement of a Muslim as the role of President of the United States of America. You might have your beliefs and opinions on that, but he never specifically said that there should not be another Muslim president. He simply said he would not advocate for that. Yes?
Wouldn't you agree that we should judge future candidates for presidency not by their religion or not by their color of their skin, but by the ideas and what they stand for?
Ben Carson judges Muslims and followers of Islam by their ideas. By their religion, based on what their ideas are. The ideas behind their religion.
That's fine.
Belief in Allah or whatever his name is.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Are good? Okay, in regards to in regards to you saying that Ben Carson now, or as President of the United States, if he continues in the election, does not have the power to bar Muslims as presidents. He can say that he doesn't want a Muslim as president, but he has no right or ability to bar them from being eligible to run for president. So that's not in his power right now, and it will never be in his power unless a dictatorship is brought on by him, which won't happen. Also, in regards to Guantanamo Bay, okay, so Ben Carson can believe that it should be kept open, and that might be necessary. The conditions will need to be changed and bettered in order for the Guantanamo Bay to be run in a humane way. But the fact is, Guantanamo Bay is the largest maximum security holding prison for a bunch of inmates, and it's important to not have them on the mainland. So Ben Carson needs to have, people in general need Guantanamo Bay to stay open, and Ben Carson is advocating for that. Also, these people, they said that Common Core is irrelevant to the case, but the fact that the topic is not simply that he would be disqualified because of his Muslim beliefs. If he's state qualified, then he has other reasons to be qualified, like societal welfare. So the Common Core, 31% of the state students, only 31% of the state students in grades 3rd through 8 passed the test. And think about it: if you were one of the 69% of America that did not do well on this test and failed, your beliefs in yourself and in the system will plummet. There's a direct school-to-prison pipeline, and bad grades play a huge fact in the idea that you are worthless, and which can lead to other punishments at school. So that's that.
Yeah, so again, I'm going to ask the same question because you haven't really clarified it the first time. But how does Dr. Carson's views on Guantanamo Bay and Common Core really have anything to do with his comments on the Muslim peoples?
Well, even if he's disqualified in regards to his comment and his racist remarks, he is still qualified on the fact that he believes that there needs to be a holding cell for inmates and a system by which the educational standards should be met.
So you agree that that his comments on Muslims have disqualified him to be a good candidate?
No, you can believe that, but it's well known that he is against Common Core and for the holding cell of many, societal welfare. That's the technicality topical thing you're using. Yeah.
So can you please qualify why exactly his comments on Muslims do not disqualify him as a good Republican candidate?
Okay, so if he is not to be disqualified, there are many reasons that he should stay in the race. He has many good traits that are necessary for the President of the United States to have. And compared to the other Republican candidates, he is not a bad option. So, I mean, we need a Republican primary candidate, so, yeah, Donald Trump is worse. And he is. Donald Trump is worse. By far. I don't know what else to say. We strongly negate today's resolution that Ben Carson's comments on Muslims disqualify him as a good Republican candidate. Good luck, Christie. It's really easy for you.
Oh no. Okay. One moment. Okay. Okay. As a very, very brief on-time roadmap, I'd like to quickly go over the affirmative team's case, then move on to key voter issues of the negation team. Time starts now. Okay, so I'd first like to talk about the criterion of this debate, which is societal welfare. Societal welfare means what is going to benefit society. And through our points, we have clearly shown how a society is going to be affected. But first, I'd like to go back to the affirmative team's case. The first argument was that Ben Carson would bar Muslims from having the place of presidency. However, as my partner clearly stated, and I will state again, he does not have that power, and he simply said he would not advocate for them. We define advocate as a person who fights for a cause. He's not going to fight for that cause, but he's not going to bar them either, and he does not even have the power to do that. Secondly, Ben Carson, the affirmative team's contention was that he is contradicting American core values. American core values is freedom and religion. Ben Carson never said he was going to ban Islamic people from practicing their religion. He simply said he would not advocate for an Islamic president, and that does not mean the same thing as him banning Islam from America. So their argument is clearly does not stand. Secondly is we'd like to go over the we'd like to go over key voter issues in the negation team's case. And our first issue is that as we're talking about societal welfare, we believe society would greatly benefit if Ben Carson were to become we believe that if Ben Carson were to become a Republican candidate and eventually president. First, he would represent people of different backgrounds. And I know the affirmative team has argued that he's contradicting himself because he wouldn't be representing Islamic people. He simply said he wouldn't be advocating for them, and it's not the same thing. Secondly, he would represent people who come from impoverished backgrounds and who come from racial inequality, as he is one of the prime examples of hard work and determination, and still shows that the American dream still holds true. He came from a poor community, yet he was able to work his butt off to rise in the ranks in Johns Hopkins and become a neurosurgeon, one of the leading medical professions of America. And as an African American, we believe that he would still advocate. We believe that he would advocate for equal rights in terms of racial issues, as well as the poor people of America who do not really have a strong voice in the American government and such. We also believe that he would be a good Republican candidate and he shouldn't be disqualified because in terms of societal welfare, we believe that him abolishing Common Core does relate. The affirmative team has stated that it does not relate. However, because we are talking about the criterion of societal welfare, him abolishing Common Core does relate because Common Core has proved to be an education system that has, one, discouraged kids from learning, as only 31% from grade 3 to 8 pass the test. And through Common Core, we are discouraging creativity and innovation and just focusing on testing, which is not what education should be about. Education is just more than tests. It is about learning, it is about thinking, it is about creativity, and we believe that him abolishing Common Core would deeply affect society in a greater way. And also our their contention on Guantanamo Bay. We believe it stands because Guantanamo Bay holds prisoners who are who need to be under secure and max holding cells. And currently, we only have one cell like one prison like Guantanamo Bay on American land. If we were to close down Guantanamo Bay, we'd have to put all the inmates in Guantanamo Bay in this one secure max prison. And that would be, well, first, unfair to the prisoners. This would be a very, very overcrowded prison. And secondly, it would not be safe for citizens because we're having only one prison securing much more people than they should be. And this would not be good for the American people as their security level has just gone down. And by keeping Guantanamo Bay open, we are keeping American citizens safe. And we are also making sure that the prison system, in terms of that one secure max cell, holds. Because if there are more people in Guantanamo Bay, then they will not be able to secure all these prisoners. And this is a threat to American safety. And for all these reasons, we strongly negate today's resolution of that Ben Carson's comments on Muslims disqualify him as a good Republican candidate.
So I'm going to do voters fundamental analysis, two-world comparison, and a nice quote.
How ambitious, Czarina.
Okay, so is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Okay, so did you get the framework?
Voters, two-world analysis.
Okay. So time begins now. So my first voter issues is that his comments reflect his inner beliefs that are fundamentally un-American. So what we see here is that all of my opponents, all they have said is that, well, Ben Carson isn't going to say it to the Muslim's face. Oh, but he doesn't even have the power to do this. But really, it really doesn't matter because this anti-Muslim attitude reflected through his comments is going to shine through his entire policy. And what we see is that his entire belief of this anti-Muslim is entirely contradictory to our Constitution and American core values, and they haven't really refuted any of this. We brought up the example with Thomas Jefferson and his Virginia Freedom of Religion Clause, non-refuted, irrefuted. The second one with Article 6 of the Constitution, still not refuted. And finally, the 1961 Supreme Court of the United States decision. We have given examples from politics. We have given examples from the Constitution and, in fact, acting upon the Constitution as policy. And really, this entire advocacy has gone ignored by my opponents. But moreover, moving on to my second voter issue, which is that of the effects of his anti-Muslim attitude. Essentially, what we see here is that it doesn't really matter if he's actually going to take away the presidential power from Muslims. What we see here is that through the comments, he has reflected this anti-Muslim attitude, and that's going to shine through his presidency. The effects of this attitude are going to exacerbate racial tensions in America, destroy American unity, and also destroy America's Middle Eastern foreign policy. So really, he's causing both domestic chaos and foreign chaos. And moving on to my final voter issue, which is that essentially the negation case absolutely holds no weight whatsoever. First of all, beginning with a simple question. My partner asked the second speaker exactly how doesn't Carson's comments disqualify him from being a good Republican candidate, and per the usual pattern of my opponents, they ignored it once again. But moving on is that their entire advocacy is based on Common Core and Guantanamo Bay, but they really haven't been able to prove a connection between these two and his comments on the Muslim people. The entire thing is that, ignoring his comments on Muslims, we should still vote for him because of his views on Common Core and Guantanamo Bay. That's like me going up and saying that I want to commit mass genocide, but still vote for me because I'm against Common Core and for Guantanamo Bay. It really makes no logical sense whatsoever. So moving on, and really the effect of this entire thing is that he, as my opponents have already stated, and I quote, is going going to determine America and pass his values on to the next generation. And what he is going to do is that he's going to pass on bigotry, deeply offensive comments, prejudice against an entire people simply because of their religious beliefs, or as my opponents like to say, belief in Allah, or whatever his name is. So this brings me on to the final irrefutable fact, is that it really doesn't matter if Ben Carson won't say these things to the Muslims' faces, or if he has actually no power to bar the presidency, is that the irrefutable fact is that Ben Carson is judging these people simply because of the color of their skin or by their religion and not based on their true abilities. And that not only should we not judge our presidential candidates like that, we shouldn't be judging people like that. So moving on to my true world comparison is that when you vote for the negation, you say that entire people should be barred from the public office simply because of their faith and that you agree with Ben Carson. However, when you affirm, you agree that people are not going to be defined by their religion, but rather by their beliefs. So I ask you this, negation, isn't America based on equality and opportunity? Shouldn't our government be built by the people and for the people, not a government built by the people except for the Muslims and for the people, all except for the Muslims? We just ignore them and prejudice against them because they don't matter, because that's essentially Ben Carson's advocacy and the negation's advocacy. So moving on is that moreover, when you vote for negation, you say we can ignore entirely a person's beliefs simply because they want to close Common Core and open Guantanamo Bay. We should vote for Ben Carson and the negation simply because we want to continuously torture thousands of Americans in Guantanamo Bay just so they don't have to come back to mainland America, that we're once again barring people simply because of something that really is ridiculous, such as their religion. But when you vote for the affirmation, you believe that we elect people based on their values and not by their religion. So paraphrasing Hillary Clinton's words, can a Muslim be a future president? Yes. But should a racist? No. So the choice is clear. We must affirm.
Scott, coming.
That was really
What do you
great.
think? Okay.
You guys did really good.
Except for
I'm just going to give a brief couple of things. I'll let Lily do most of it. But I wanted to say a couple of things that both of you did well that I want us to focus on and move on for the rest of the time. One is that I really like that Czarina set up a brink scenario in her first contention. What she was doing is talking about she talked about we're at a really delicate position in the Middle East. Anything we do is going to upset that balance, and this is why these comments are so damaging. So that's a really good thing. You want it as much as possible. So it's called the brink scenario. So think of if you're standing on the edge of a cliff, right?
Okay.
You want to make as much of your points so that they're at that, one more step and you'll fall over a cliff, right? Because it makes it